Hello, everybody. We're so glad you came to be with us tonight. We think we are restreaming on Facebook and also on B'nai Noach Connection on with Israel on Facebook, and also Torah for the Nations in the YouTube channel. We're so glad you came with us. And those of you that would like to come on over in the Zoom room, of course, Terry's here and my wife is here and Thomas, and we've got a few more probably going to come on in a few more minutes. But we're so glad to be here with you tonight. We're so glad that you came to spend this time with us. I'm so looking forward to the teaching that Terry has put together to present to us tonight. I'm going to say a couple things before I do our dedications. Make sure you get a pen and paper. And Terry, I didn't get it on the radio yet. I'm doing that right now. So make sure you do a pen and paper and you take down some questions and some notes. I guarantee you tonight you'll want to take down some notes. If you got some questions, you can look at Terry's Facebook page or mine, and you can instant message those to us if you want them to be private, and we will discuss them and bring them to you. Now, I want to do a couple of dedications before we do our charity tonight. I want to remember in blessed memory. Hold on just a minute. Let me. Hello, Amuela. How you doing? I think I'm okay. In blessed memory tonight of this program, this episode tonight, Jerry Baker and Greg. And we also got one from the radio. They just called him Butch. So we're going to do in blessed memory of them. Also, we're looking for the complete healing tonight of Jim, of Keisha Fields, and strength for Rabbi Pesach. Terry and I are filling in for mostly Terry. I'm just, as Amuela says, Terry is in the captain's chair, and I am down in the engine room to try to help if anything happens down there. So in presenting those names to you tonight, I always like to say we need to give tzedakah. You need to give tzedakah. It'll change you. It'll change your family, change your community, and in turn, it can change the world. It can impact them. So we're going to give this tzedakah tonight in memory and support for those names. There's Thomas giving his tzedakah tonight. Thank you so much for that. One more thing before we turn Terry loose here. We want you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you can do that, the more we get subscriptions in the YouTube channel, boy, that's a tongue twister right there, Terry, then Rabbi Pesach can get some more perks with the channel. So we'll want to encourage you to do that, and also share the video on YouTube. You're able to do that. And if you are listening on Facebook, please give it a thumbs up. You can share it to your groups, share it to your feed, and invite people to come on in and listen there. Again, I want to say one more time, if you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, go to Facebook. You can get the Zoom link and come on in and be right here with us in the class. Well, Terry, did I cover everything okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
As usual, you have your dilithium crystal all in line.
I'm going to get me one just so I can dangle it here somewhere. I don't even know what a dilithium crystal looks like. So
we got to have a little bit of fun.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Go ahead, Terry. I'm gonna mute my mic and just let you present to us tonight what you have developed. I call it developing it.
Yeah. Actually, I changed the middle of the paths in the middle of the stream here this week, which I'll get into here in just a moment. I also would like to, this class, Torah for the Nations class, lift up all of those. It's in the path of the storms that's coming through tonight. We're supposed to get some rough weather tonight and in the morning. So Hashem willing, it won't interrupt our class tonight. If it does, well, we'll just redo, pick up, we'll do whatever we have to do. But there are some I've heard there's been some tornadoes down in Mississippi and Alabama, I think, on the ground. We've got chances for tornadoes in the early morning hours here in our area. So welcome to springtime in the South. We get our warm air and our winds out of the Gulf, and it can bring some havoc in Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, and Kentucky, over into the Carolinas. It seems like it comes through us, dissipates and fuels back up by the time it gets to the Carolinas. I've heard that they're supposed to have some rough wind. They're calling for some straight line winds here, what I read early this afternoon. So we hope that the Creator will protect all of those that's in the path of the storm, and protect you, your family, and your property. So, as I was mentioned, I changed the path tonight from what I stated at the end of last week's class. And there's a reason. I mean, what I said, we were going to go into the prohibition of theft, and we will be doing that. Just don't know if we'll get that far tonight. There's some things that just needs to be covered before we get into the behavioral guidelines that was given to us by the Creator. And there's some things I've got to cover beforehand. There's if you've never been into the study of the Hebrew Scriptures, there's some things that I need to relay, relay as a message, or however you want to put it. Some of it will be new to a lot of people. It's not a new thing. It's just new to people because it goes back to Mount Sinai, some almost 3,400 years. We're just, Johnny come latelys on the scene. And I'm going to recap a little bit from last week to help, bring forward what I feel that needs to be covered tonight before we get into the study of theft. And it's in the study of theft. It's going to take a while, but we're going to cover all the other, all the seven eventually as we go. But tonight we've got to cover some prereq to get into that, so that you'll understand what we're doing and where we're going. I'm going to be covering some things, like I said, some of you may have never heard before. You might want to fasten your seatbelt a little bit. You're going to have questions. Feel free to ask. Please ask. Scotty and I have been studying this for years, and we sit we have teachers, and our teachers have teachers that, like I said in one of our classes a year, it was either our class or a video Scotty and I done. There's a chain of transmission of Torah learning that's 3,400 years old, and we're connected. We became connected several years ago to that chain, and it's changed our life, and it's amazing. As you can recognize from if you've been following my last videos and those on the radio, welcome to those on the radio. I know you're not seeing the video as of yet, and we hope you will have an opportunity to watch it on the YouTube channel in the future. I've changed my background from what I normally do. Tonight I have my background because this is Zoom class. I have Zoom as well and use the green screen. So my background tonight behind me is an ancient Torah scroll. And I say ancient because it's the Torah from Mount Sinai, what is in that. And it's been hand transmitted for 3,400 years. And I've got that there for a reason, because the Torah, everyone knows what the Torah, they've heard it called Torah, the 5 books of Moses. And that's what's on the scroll behind me is the Torah scroll. It's the five books that the Creator commanded Moses to write down. And a lot of it was personally dictated from the Creator to Moses. And that's one reason why it's very, very important document for mankind. The Torah is not just a title. Torah means instruction. And that's important. It's the only part of the Hebrew scriptures that's called instruction. As far as the Tanakh, the Torah, the writings, and the prophets. The Torah means instructions. You can learn from the others, yes, but this particular book is, our set of books is the instruction guide from the Creator. And so I wanted to let you understand what Torah means. It means instruction. And that's what we're going to be getting into when we get into like the laws of theft and the laws of murder and things like that. They're the instructions from the Creator pertaining those subjects. And I'm just going to go through some material here. And again, like I said, some of the wording it's going to be new. It's going to be new for some. But once you get in, don't let it scare you. Don't let it offend you. Understand that just like going into any culture, when you're coming from the outside in, you've got to learn how that culture operates within that culture. The Torah is the culture of Israel. As I shared last week, Psalms 147, King David said that the decrees, the ordinances, the statutes were given to Israel and not any other nation. It was given to them. It is the heritage. The Torah is the heritage of Israel. It's not the heritage of any other nation. It's the heritage of Israel. That's I don't have that reference, but you can look that up in Rabbi Google there. But it's the heritage of Israel. We are the students and they are the priests. And that's our place within where the Creator places, which is not a problem. Some people have a problem with it, but I don't have a problem with it. I don't want all that responsibility. I mean, with more responsibility comes a whole lot more you're held accountable for. Accountability and your responsibility goes up when you're given the that much responsibility. Scotty, you got something?
I do, and I didn't want to break your train of thought there.
No, I'm fine.
In the discussion of Torah, some people would ask, why not, I'm just going to put it plain, the whole Bible? And of course, you and I have discussed this many times, and I'm trying to present this gently, and I'm just going to ask you to maybe cover it, that the Torah is not just a foundation. It is a complete instructional book that any writings that are written after the Torah was presented must fit within the parameters of the Torah. Now, did I say that correctly?
You said that correctly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's anything that comes after this, like the prophets and the writings, the have to be completely stand on the Torah principles, its rules, its regulations, its laws. It cannot be nothing can be added to it. It has to stand on its own. Now I'm going to cover some terms. Like I said, the term Torah is instruction, and these terms are important because some of these terms, some people have attacked, gone used. Oh, that word's not in the Torah. That word's not in the scripture. There's a lot of words that's not in there that we use today. But one of the resources, or many of the resources I'll be reading from, uses the term Noahide. And so there's people who have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with it, mainly because there's, in the Torah itself, in the Hebrew, in Genesis, Genesis 9, when it talks about the sons of Noah, it says B'nai Noach, the sons or the family of Noah. Noahide is just someone who is a descendant of Noah, which, guess what? That's every human being this side of the flood. But as anything else, there are different levels of a Noahide. There are those that are observant within what God has given mankind. There's some that are less. There's some, but there's still a Noahide. But the Noahide term today represents those who observes the commandments that was given from Adam to Noah, Noah to Shem, Shem to Abraham, and then it was codified in writing at Mount Sinai for Moses. So the term Noahide, there's two levels of humanity. There's Israel and the nations. There's the Jews and the Noahides. Israel is the priestly nation. They're the priest. We're the congregation. That's the way it's set up. That's what, when you look at the terms you're going to be hearing, Jewish and Noahide, it's the clergy and the congregation. That's the easy way I know how to explain it. Did I explain it okay, Scotty? Okay.
Yeah. I think that's great.
So don't take offense to the word Noahide. And like I said, there are some people that's got some negative things out there, and I can guarantee you 100% those who have made anti-Noahide material out there hasn't studied the scriptures according to the way God wants them to be understood. I can guarantee that 100% because I was there in that same boat at one time. And so I have had to eat a lot of crow, as they say, when I became educated. It'd be just like, someone who's not an engineer come up and tell an engineer how to design a bridge, whose life designs bridges, and I don't know math and trigonometry and calculus and all of that. And yet I think I'm going to know more of what the engineer is going to know. We have to become educated. The Creator wants us to be educated. He talks about that a lot. King Solomon talks about that a lot, about being educated into the ways of God. So I want to delve into this. And what we're going to be learning is we're going to be learning some prereq to the study of the laws of like theft and murder and so on, which we'll be going into later. This is prereq. We're also going to learn how to derive, how to study. We're going to look at just a glimpse into learning how to study the Torah and how you derive what the Creator wants us to learn from it. It says we're going to study there's seven Noahide laws, or the laws of Noah, and how they are derived and how they are structured in the shape and to how they shape the divine vision for mankind. Although the seven Noahide laws have their origin Adam to Noah, the Creator chose to transmit and preserve them via Moses and the giving of the Torah at Sinai. This placed the seven mitzvot within the structure of the system of Torah study and learning. Therefore, the seven, I call them mitzvot. I don't like the word laws and commandments, which they are that. But you're fixing to see reason why I prefer the word mitzvah, which I've mentioned that in past classes. But the seven mitzvahs must be interpreted and understood within the context of the Torah. This point cannot be stressed enough, that the Jewish and therefore Noahide study and interpretation of the Torah is unique and unlike the study of any other religious text. Mean that what that's saying there, that there is a specific way and system of studying the Torah. This is why when I mentioned in the last class, how do we go back? And I showed you in Genesis 25 and 22 that Rivka, the daughter of Abraham, went to hear from God. She went to those who were the guardian of the tradition given to Noah, which was Shem and Ever. I showed you in Zechariah 8:23 that the nations will come, and it's in the Hebrew, it says to the Yehudi, the Jew, and say, we have heard that God is with you. So it tells us that, and basically what that is saying in modern paraphrased English, we've got to go to the guardians of the tradition that was given to Moses by the Creator and Moses to the children of Israel. It's the only group of people on the planet who had a personal revelation and encounter with the Creator of over 3 million strong at one time. Enough that the Torah, you won't read this in the English, but in the Hebrew, it says they actually literally saw the words. When the Creator spoke, they saw the words. And no one on earth, other than the Jewish people who are the descendants of that, has had that revelation, that connection, that contact. And when he called Moses up on the mountain, says, write down this. Not only did he write it down, he gave him explanations, which we're going to go into. And he also told them, this is how you study. And so they've carried this forth for almost 3,400 years. The uniqueness of the traditional approach to Torah interpretation cannot be emphasized enough. The Jewish biblical interpretation exists in a completely different universe than non-Jewish modes of biblical interpretation. In fact, they overlap so little that no amount of background of biblical studies can prepare one for the unique approach that has been given to the Jewish people at Mount Sinai some 3,400 years ago. This is important. A reason why I'm covering this first is because I'm just going to jump a little bit ahead. Most people will say, well, the 10 commandments, 1, 2, 3. Well, one, it's not 10 commandments. The word commandments is not even in the Hebrew there. It's 10 sayings. And most people don't even quote all the first one. It's left out on most lists, the first part of the first one. But that's not done like that, because for almost a little over 2,000 years from Adam to Moses, it wasn't written down. It was passed orally. I'm going to give you an example. Just give you an example. Why do you look both ways before you cross the street? Scotty, why do you look both ways before crossing a street?
Because there could be something coming from both ways.
So you don't step out and get run over by a car, right?
I could look just one way and step out, and there'd be one.
Where did you hear that from? Who taught you that?
That's a good question. Mama just said, don't step out in that street. So
But what I'm saying, you learned it from mom and dad.
Yeah.
And later on, it's taught in the schools and things like that. But basically, You know, you're going to be holding mom and dad's hands before you, before you start going to school. When you're going, don't step out in the street. Or if you step out in the street, if you're by yourself, look both ways. So that was an oral tradition that we have, that mom and dad taught you how to cross the street. Now, is that a commandment that was given to you like some general or drill sergeant? Was it, Scotty? Did your mom and daddy drill that into you like somebody in your face?
Yeah, if they said it once, they said it 100 times.
Yeah, but it wasn't said like a drill sergeant.
Oh, no. They said it. Well,
why would they even care to give you that instruction?
They feared I would step out in the road when they weren't with me.
Right. But they loved you.
Yes.
They did the whole thing behind look both ways before you cross the road is because someone, whoever gave you that instruction, cared enough. They didn't want to see you hurt. And I'm going to tell you, the beauty of the laws of the Torah are given in that exact manner. It is a loving creator. You've got to picture these commands were not given by a drill sergeant, but by a father of all humanity. And he goes, I don't want to see you hurt. Don't step out in the street. Look first. And that is the attitude of every commandment in the Torah. Because daddy doesn't want to see his child get hurt. And we need to learn to approach. Yes, he is the king. I'm not downplaying the kingship and the laws of the kingdom. But on a personal, one-on-one communication and walk with God, he's your father. He doesn't want to see you hurt. And so that jumps a little bit ahead, but that's just been in my mind all week long. Actually, that example came to me days ago, and the more I chewed on it, I've got to do the prereq before we get into the prohibition of theft that we're going to get into. And because I want to get into the reason why we're starting there. You can start anywhere, but there's a reason why I'm going to show you later why we're going to start there. It says that make sure I don't want to. It says in many of the non-Jewish religions, the Tanakh, the Hebrew scriptures, the Torah, the prophets, and the writings are all treated with equal authority. Some treat the later prophets even greater authority than the Torah itself. This is not how the Torah is viewed by the priestly nation and by the non-Jews who study this, the Noahides. We view the Torah, the prophets, and the writings in a hierarchical. There is an order of greater and lesser authority. At the pinnacle of the hierarchy is the 5 books written in the Torah. What's called the Chumash. Chumash means 5. They are the final and permanent crystallization of God's will for mankind. The Torah will never be replaced, superseded by any other future covenant or revelation. It is the revelation of the Creator. There's a Hebrew word called Masorah. It's a hard word to translate. So the best word that they have found for English is transmission, which we've discussed before. The Masorah, or the transmission, The closest translation, wait a minute, I just told you is the transmission. The giving over of information, it refers to an unbroken chain of transmission from revelation at Sinai until this present time. And as I've mentioned before, it's transmitted, and even Israel even has that link in the book called The Ethics of the Fathers, Perkei Avot. It starts out and it shows how, Moses received it from the Creator, and Moses passed it down to Joshua, and it keeps on going all the way through, and you can see the transmission, or what's called Masorah. Now, Scotty, are there any questions on that before I go to this next section?
No.
Okay. And like I said, I kind of quickly went through this because I wanted to lay out some terms, some understanding, why we're turning to the Torah, why it's important for mankind. But if you have any questions of anything that I said, feel free to contact Scotty or myself with some questions, and we'll be glad to either do a class on them or I'll answer you right back. We want you to understand where we're coming from. We're coming from a very textual understanding that this is what's pictured behind me. The Torah scroll is the will of God, and we're going back to that. We as the nations wasn't given this. We weren't giving it as directly from the Creator. Most of us came through it from a different direction. And because of that, we've made a lot of mistakes, misunderstandings. And when we read things, we thought we know what it says, and we found out later we weren't close. And especially in the English. English is a horrible language to translate the Hebrew into. That's my opinion. The more I learn Hebrew, the less I like the English. Because like I said, there's the reason why some of these terms are so important is because they're concepts. They can have a definition, but the concept of that word goes far beyond the definition. Like we said, Torah, it means instruction. It means even more than that. Emunah, which is translated as faith, does not mean what faith is in the English. So there's so many words, and we're fixing to get into the word mitzvah that I've talked about in the past few classes. But we're going to go to the next section. We're going to talk about deriving. Okay, if the quote Noahide code of conduct, really, and that's what it is, it's a code of conduct, was not given in a point layout, point A, point B, point C, well, then how do we know that they even existed? Because people want to say, well, that's not written in there. It's because they're approaching the Torah from a Western religious mindset, and they don't understand it's there. And the way it is written is for Torah study. It's for you to study. The Creator could have gave you point 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And there are a couple of them that are laid out, but the majority of them aren't. But they're there. And we're going to see that tonight, how beautiful the Creator, He wants us to study His Word and to ponder it and to meditate on it and let it sink in. Because I could tell you right now, bump, you're not going to get as much from it if I just share with you exactly what it says, and that's it. But if you take and you study it and you learn it on your own, it's going to stick. It's like everything else in education. When a teacher teaches math, sometimes she doesn't give you the complete answer. She or he wants you to derive the answer from what you've learned, put everything together and come to that answer on your own, because once you own that answer, it's yours. You know it. But if the teacher just wrote the answer on the blackboard, you don't own that. You won't remember it. There are things that I have learned on my own. Matter of fact, there's one of the things we're going to cover tonight. I came to because of my own Torah study. I found something, I seen something, I came to it on my own. And just a few weeks ago, I learned that it was an established halakha. It's established law of the law that's been there since creation. But that's what, and once I learned it on my own, it's stuck. It's there. It's like a bumper sticker stuck on your car. It's there. And that's why the Creator wants us, of mankind, to study this out. And the Jews have to do the same thing. Now, he did give them certain rules that are point blank out there. That's for them, but it's because of their position. They have to do this, they have to do that to do the work of the priest. But for us, our work is to settle the earth, to build societies. And the more we learn and what Hashem wants us to, the Creator wants us to do, and we study it and get it ingrained, the stronger we are personally, the stronger we are as a family, the stronger we are as a community, and the stronger our connection is with the Creator. And that's what Noah was all about. We got a lot into that last week with Noah being, when he walked with the Creator and what all that meant. He walked with the Creator because he meditated. Matter of fact, the sages teach that Psalms 1 is about Noah. That he did not walk in the way in the setter and the set in the way in the scoffer, and he meditated on the Torah day and night. And he meditated on the Torah. It was passed down orally at that time. That was the instruction. Torah means instruction. There were 6 instructions that came from Adam to Noah, and he meditated on those until he became the righteous of his generation. And that's the desire of the Creator with each one of us. Now we're going to get into learning to derive the Noahide Laws. We're going to look at the Noahide Laws and how they fit into the landscape of Torah learning, how they are derived from the Torah, and how they are interpreted. It is an important precursor of discussing the laws. I say that's the reason why I want to get this. Learning how these things are derived is very important. It's the very important part of Torah learning, is learning how to study the Hebrew scriptures, how to meditate on them, to get what we want to ask the question, what is it that the Creator wants me to learn from this? Just like Scotty and I've been talking and doing some classes on the first word of the Torah, Bereshit, in the beginning. That's an instruction. That one word is an instruction. And there's matter of fact, one rabbi that Scotty and I both know has stated that there's volumes in the Hebrew written on that one word, volumes of books, because it's an instruction, not just a statement. And that's what we're going to be learning. Now, you've heard me say that I prefer the word mitzvah more than I do commandment and law, because mitzvah, tzav, and mitzvah, tzav is root of mitzvah, is what's used. It's translated as command. And it can be a command. It can be a law. But first and foremost, it's a mitzvah. And I prefer, because it's another one of those words, once you grasp it and you learn it inside your head and inside your heart, it's there. The Hebrew word mitzvah is translated as I said, as commandment. However, this translation, as I've said, fully does not capture the essence of what a mitzvah is. And here's one of the best definitions of a mitzvah. A mitzvah is best defined as an expression of God's will. Any expression of God's will or desire, whether stated explicit or merely alluded to, is a mitzvah. This is true for both the 613 that is mitzvot that's given to Israel and the 7 that's given to the non-Jewish nations. The 7 laws of Noah are not explicitly stated in any place in the Torah. For that matter, neither are many of the other commandments of the Torah. The laws of Noah are communicated in a number of ways in a number of places before the revelation at Sinai. That's why we know that they were given to Adam. Okay. Is there any questions on that point? That the mitzvah is the will of God. I'm going to show you that here when we're going to look at a few examples. Is there any questions on that on the word mitzvah? Go ahead, Larry.
What is the root for zav? Mitzvah is mem zadi bait or vav? Mitzvah.
I don't have that Hebrew.
You know the Hebrew word for it? But I don't know what. I got the M's, no problem. It's after the zadi. I was wondering what would that be. I'll keep looking it up anyway. I had a question earlier that it still relates to what you're saying. Are there any halakha that are developed anywhere else in the Tanakh rather than the Torah, the Humash, the Torah, the 5 books of Moses? Are there any other halakha mitzvahs established in the prophets or the writings that you know of? I know there's rabbinical, but that's not considered halakha like Torah halakha.
The halakha for the nations is within the Torah, and actually the halakha for Israel is within the Torah.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to. I don't ever remember anybody saying there's other halakha established, say, because of Ezekiel, or established because of.
No, because all of that's based on what the Torah said.
Right. Okay.
It's already everything in the Torah or the prophets and the writings. Everything is based already on the Torah. If it's any different from what the Torah says, it's not. It's
right.
Not permitted. So, all right. The word mitzvah, yes, it is the will of God, and the will of God is a commandment, is a law. But like I said, first and foremost, it's a mitzvah, and when you grasp what this mitzvah is, all right. In the Mishnah Torah, the Rambam, he derives and he codifies. What I mean codifies is he's put down into writing these laws. The halakha, when we say halakha, it's another one of those words again. The only way I know how to best interpret halakha is one. Halakha means it's the way you observe a commandment. And the way here lately, the way I see halakha and the way for me to help explain it is it's the law behind the law. I hope that makes sense. It's the law behind the law. How a specific mitzvah or commandment is performed and done. It's the basic. This is the the base of that commandment and how it's performed and done. Now, the Rambam wrote this. It said 6 principles or precepts were commanded to Adam. The prohibition of the worship of false gods, the prohibition against cursing God, prohibition of murder, prohibition against incest and adultery, the prohibition of theft, and what's called a positive commandment, the setting up of just laws and courts. Like I said, we're going to be eventually going through every one of these and looking at in the Torah where they come from, where they're established at, how they were given to Adam, how they were given to Noah. And of course, the 7th one was given to Noah after the flood, and the prohibition of eating meat taken from a live animal. Now, I'm going to do 2 examples of deriving from, hold on here. Let me make sure. I thought I had that. I did highlight that. I think I lost my highlight. The one I'm going to look at as an example is the prohibition of incest and adultery. Let's see here. I want to make sure I'm reading it right. I went through this morning and made sure I had it. Okay, here we go. It says here that there are 6 illicit sexual relations forbidden unto the non-Jewish nations. And that is a relation, this is all sexual relation with his mother, his father's wife, a married woman, his maternal sister, a male, and an animal. These prohibitions are derived from the verse. Now we're going to look at how this is derived. This is an example. We'll be going back over this when we study this particular prohibition in the future. But Genesis 2 and verse 4. Genesis 2 and verse 4 says, "Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and cling unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh." You're like, well, how do you get the prohibition? And the way we say that prohibition today is the prohibition of forbidden sexual relationships. Well, it says here, "Therefore a man shall leave his father." His father alludes to his father's wife. His mother, it says, shall leave his mother and father, or father and mother. His mother is understood very simple. You don't have relations with your mom. Clinging unto his wife is understood, and not his neighbor's wife, his friend's wife. And it says he will cling to his wife and not a male. They shall become one flesh. This excludes the domestic animal, or says the domestic animal, beast and fowl. Man can never become one flesh with them. The prohibition against relations with the maternal sister is derived from Genesis 20:13. "She is my sister, my father's daughter, but not my mother's daughter." Thus, she became his wife. Not permitted to have sexual relation with your maternal sister. This verse concludes the Torah's description of the creation of Eve and Adam's union with her. Thus, it serves as a guide for sexual behavior for all his descendants. Again, this is deriving. This is how the Creator wants us to learn. When we study that passage out, It is a guide. Therefore, a man shall leave his father and his mother and cling unto his wife, and they shall become one flesh. By studying that passage out, by asking questions, what does it mean by his father? What does it mean by his mother? What does it mean to cling to his wife? What does it mean to be his wife? We have to learn to ask these questions and answer those questions. In doing so, you will begin learning what we're supposed to be doing. That this is for all the descendants of Adam. It's by learning to study the Torah in this format is far deeper and more ingrained, as I said before, than just, do not commit adultery. This takes it into a little bit deeper level than just giving you a point blank commandment or mitzvah to do. Now, the other example I wanted to go into, and Scotty, you will be ready to read here in just a second. We're going to be getting into the prohibition of theft. And so, Scotty, would you mind reading the passages? I think I gave, do you have them written down what I asked you to read? Genesis 2 and 2:16 and 17 and chapter 3, verse 6.
I do. You want me to read all of them?
Just go ahead and read those.
Okay. Genesis chapter 2, 16 and 17.
Right.
And Hashem God commanded the man, and I'm reading out of my Art Scroll Tanakh for everybody that wants to know that. And Hashem God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of knowledge of good and bad you must not eat thereof. For on the day you eat of it, you shall surely die. Chapter 3, verse 6. And the woman perceived that the tree was good for eating, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was desirable as a means to wisdom. And she took of its fruit and ate, and she gave also to her husband with her, and he did eat. Or ate is the word that was there, past tense. And
okay. Deuteronomy 16. Not Deuteronomy 16, sorry. Genesis 2:16 says that he gave the command of eating from all the trees. Right? How does it say that again in the English?
He said, of every tree of the garden you may freely eat.
Right. In the Hebrew, the word eat is actually mentioned twice there. You shall eat.
Yeah.
Which has a lot of understanding there. This is a mitzvah. Hashem, or the Creator, says that to Adam and Eve, all of the trees of the garden are yours. I am your provider. I've provided everything you need. Right there. Everything I have provided, you can partake in every bit of it. Now he sets a boundary. But if this one over here, it's mine. The day that you eat from it, you're going to die. What we have here is before they ate, what we learn is that the Creator set a boundary of property. He set a property boundary. He's showing us what's our possession and what's not our possession. He's telling us that we can do whatever, we can have all of our possession we want. But this over here is not your possession, It's not yours. Now we over in Genesis 3, what did it say? What did it say, Scotty? Genesis 3:6 there.
Sorry, I was taking care of some stuff over on Facebook.
Oh,
Genesis
sorry about
chapter
that.
3, verse 6. And the woman perceived that the tree was good for eating, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was desirable as a means of wisdom, to wisdom.
Right.
You read on? Okay, go ahead.
You'll continue. So she began to look at someone else's property and began to desire it. And in a few classes back, we talked about this, that within the law of theft for us, coveting and desiring is when we do one or the other or both, we have broken the prohibition of theft. We've stolen. That's how sensitive it is. Because once you desire it, and that leads to coveting and lusting, it leads to action. What did she do? We'll continue reading.
I'm here with you, Terry. And she took of its fruit and ate.
Okay, right there. She took. She coveted. She desired. She took. She committed theft. Her desire in her heart and the coveting in her eyes and her mind led to the actual taking, something that didn't belong to her. So the prohibition of theft was violated before the eating. And from this passage in Genesis 2, verse 16, 17 here, the sages of Israel teaches us that we get the prohibition of theft. That from the onset, the Creator was teaching us about boundaries, the responsibilities of your property, the responsibility of what your relationship with someone else's property is supposed to be about. There's an old statement in the Talmud. It goes something, I'm going to paraphrase, I hope I don't destroy it, that you should be as concerned with your own money as your neighbor's money. You should treat it the same. You wouldn't want nobody to take it from you, so you don't want to take your neighbor's. And we're going to get into all the different aspects of theft. Matter of fact, we got Veronica asked if she did not take. Well, actually, yes, because as we study the prohibition of theft, and I've mentioned in a few classes back, according to our halakha and the way it is for us as the nations, desiring someone else's property is theft. Coveting someone else's property is theft. Lusting after someone else's property is theft. It is the violation of theft. They're not broken down. In for the Jewish people, it's broken down, but the end result's the same. But theirs is broken down in a little bit of different the way it's covered. But for us, it's categorical. Our 7 mitzvot that we have to take care of is categorical. And because it's a category, it brings a stiffer observance, meaning that if we look over and we like our neighbor's truck, lawnmower, and we desire it, we like it. For us, because it's categorical, it's theft. You've already, inside your spirit, inside your soul, you began the process of theft. And as we can see here from the beginning, the process of theft within the humanity has been an issue for us from that, and it continues to get deeper and deeper. And as technology grows, we're learning more and more ways that people are stealing and thieving. And like I said, when we get into the property theft, I'm going to introduce it. We're going to look at the flood. We're going to look at the flood and see some things. And so, Scott, you got any questions on that? Any questions on how we derived?
No, I think you presented, one of the reasons we're starting this in this direction, so many go to the end and try to look back to the beginning. And you are starting in the beginning and revealing where these halakha, these, I call them responsibilities, derived from, where they started. They didn't just start after someone did something wrong. They were here the whole time.
Well, I'll just go ahead and just jump into the flood a little bit. We've got some time here. The problem with our society and Western religious mentality, we have treated the instructions and lessons of the Torah as stories. Most of them made into kiddie stories and Sunday school lessons. And because of that, we've not learned what it was meant. We as the nations have taken something we didn't know what we took. And we've tried to understand it from our own understanding. And the true knowledge was not lost. It was never revealed because we didn't know how to study. Just like when I was saying, we derive these commands. They're like, with murder, it's point blank. You shall not shed the blood of another man. That's point blank. Eating the meat of a living animal, that's point blank. Those are two there that are given straight out. But the rest of these are given in such a way that we will get more depth when we study such passages as Genesis 2:16 and 17. When we study them, and we study them in the way we're supposed to study them according to the traditions of the guardians. And just like you shall leave your father and your mother and cling to your wife, how we learn from that. Another one that I've been learning from, and it's going to in the arena of theft, is that you should be fruitful and multiply and subdue the earth. There's actually a whole lot to that passage I never knew about. I mean, there's a ton of information there. And while I've been studying more about the prohibition of theft, that passage came up. When you shall subdue the earth. It was meant that is telling us about property, taking from the earth product. And the sages teach, as an example, this highlighter has, as a physical item, has no moral value, zero moral value. The moral value comes upon it when it becomes a possession. Now that it is mine, it has moral value. Because if you take it, you're immoral. And that's all ties into subduing the earth, learning about property. Genesis 2:16, learning that God set forth boundaries. From the beginning, this is yours, this is mine. You can do whatever you want with yours. It's yours. But don't do this with mine. Now, as a kind of a closure, I'm just going to read what's called the halakha for the prohibition of theft. The law behind the law, or the it's a little more understanding. I will give some details after I read this. A non-Jew is liable for violating the prohibition against theft, whether he stole from another non-Jew or even a Jew. And the reason why they're separated, the Jews are the priests, we are the congregation. So it's not saying one's better than the other. They hold two separate missions before the Creator. We have a mission, they have a mission. There's a boundary. Again, there's boundaries. This applies to one who forcibly robs an individual or steals money, a kidnapper, an employer who withholds his workers' wages and the like, even a worker who eats from his employer's produce when he is not working. In all such cases, he is liable and is considered as a robber. Within regard, similarly, a non-Jew is liable for stealing an object worth, and it gives a Hebrew word here. I'm going to put it in English. He's considered liable when he steals something that is worth less than a penny, or whatever. If you're in another nation, your lowest monetary denomination, the lowest, ours is a penny. And if you steal something worth less than that penny, you're liable for the prohibition of theft. You see, these are some words that are hard for some people. But it says thus, if one non-Jew stole an object worth less than a penny from another non-Jew, they are or from, let's say you stole something that was stolen. Another non-Jew stole something and you stole it, and even if that object was worth less than a penny, then you're both guilty of the prohibition of theft and are both to be executed for it. Now, what does that mean? One, we're not permitted to do that right now. That is, understand, execution is the highest level of punishment. It's not saying that it is the punishment. It's the high. You're liable. That means you're liable to the highest extent of the law, and that's normal even in our courts today in most of our lands. You may be liable for the highest extent of the law, but the judge can rule on that. The reason why that doesn't really we can't do that today is the court that judges on that has to be a righteous and just court, and we don't have that. I hope that's Southern Tennessean. We do not have just court systems. We do have court systems, but they're not just, because judges and lawyers and different people can be bribed. In a just system, in a just system, they look at things justly, because they take into account, what if that piece was a piece of bread that you stole, and you know it's for you to live or your child to live. See, all that kind of stuff. Everything has to be done according to justice. It's not a strict just no. We do not even know what a just court system looks like. We understand what their duties are when we study this out, but we don't know what they look like, because we've never seen a just court system that's held up according to the way the Creator wants us to run things. And another thing, if mankind would turn back to the Creator and honestly seek his face and following his will, which is these mitzvahs, you don't have nothing like this to worry about. You're not going to be stealing. You're not going to be doing forbidden sexual relations. So penalty has nothing to do with you. Well, I might mess up. That's part of being righteous. I covered that a couple weeks ago. A part of being righteous is making the mistake. The righteous man falls 7 times. Veronica asked, so what is the punishment for desiring something since there is no monetary value? See, that's again we will be getting into that as we study the laws of theft. I can't answer that one just yet because, there's so much there. Because desiring is, in our categorical our law, is theft. But desire is something that's inside of you that somebody doesn't see. Actually, taking an object is something that can be seen. It can be witnessed by someone else. That's why, again, we have to work on midot. We have to work on our character traits. Alongside of learning Torah, studying Musar should be right next to it. Studying how to perfect our character traits, because that goes hand in hand with our service to the Creator. Our character traits, if they're bad character traits, it's going to lead you to the negative side of the mitzvot. If you're striving and learning and growing and perfecting, it's going to take you to the positive side. And if you're on the positive side of the mitzvot, you don't have to worry about libel. You don't have to worry about any of that. That's why I am 100% convinced, because I'm studying Musar myself, and some of the stuff that I learned this last weekend in my own studies is that it has to be, that needs to be, that's something that's not talked about among the Noahides, is perfection of character traits. Everybody's wondering about keeping Sabbath and putting seats on and everything. You want to do what the Jews do, but they haven't worked on their character traits to match what they're doing with the mitzvot. I say that strongly because I've been there. I've done that. We've got to learn to perfect our character traits right beside learning and studying what God's will is for our life. Because if we've got God's will right here in front of us, don't steal, but our character of desiring and coveting what is not ours, chasing after money, going after this and going after that, adding more possession upon possession. If we're not correcting our personal traits, we're not going to be able to observe the commandments properly. It is very, we need to be studying and perfecting our character traits along beside studying our duties as servants of the Creator. Because without the perfection of our character traits, we will not be able to carry out our duties. I guess I preached there a little bit.
Can I throw something in there?
Go right ahead, Scotty.
So let's just examine this. So what you're saying is only a thief should worry about the laws of theft. Yeah. And many, and something I was thinking about what Veronica had put on there. A thief doesn't steal something that he doesn't first desire.
Right. The desire and the coveting leads to taking, just what I was showing you with
yes.
Genesis chapter 3, verse 6. If you read that, she saw with her eyes delight. She desired. And you look at the progression of that passage, the ending, It has two endings. She took and she shared what she took.
Yeah. That's a big thing right there.
This is why Torah is an instruction, not a story.
I particularly like too, Terry, you breaking down, the law of immoral sexual. You broke it down because and you're right. And I'm trying not to help you preach this, but you're right. So many times we leave the depth of our personal responsibilities vague. We'd rather leave them vague and go over and assume responsibilities of somebody else when we haven't even established.
And that in itself, depending on what that is, can be theft.
Yeah.
There are specific mitzvot given to Israel. They're theirs. And if you decide that's something you want to do, you have stolen. You have to learn from the guardians what is permitted for us to partake in. I use the word partake. There are some mitzvot that we are able to partake in, but they give that explanation because the Torah is their inheritance. Again, we've got to be careful. It's not our inheritance. We have to learn the boundaries. Where our mitzvot stop and theirs begin. And we're going to, that's part of learning the Torah. Right off the bat, boundaries.
Can I jump in here?
Go ahead.
You made me think of something, Gary, about the theft part, especially in looking at your own life and making a change there, and something that was implied in what you said made me think about this. The way we're dealing with other people and judging them for what they're doing or not doing, when we like to be lenient with ourselves, that's taking the place of a judge that I wasn't given responsibility for by God or the Torah. He gave very specific individuals that responsibility within the Jewish nation especially, and he gives it, I know with just as Gentiles, he would give it to capable men and capable righteous people. But for just any one person to say, I want to say you're wrong because I feel like you are, but I'm not, which, you see all over the internet today, I think, is the way we're stealing the position. In other words, we steal a position just as much as we steal a product or steal something owned by anybody else. And that's, and I say that because that's what I've done in the past for so many years, of judging people for what they've done, and realize I don't have that position, so I don't have the right to tell another person they're wrong for what they're doing, unless I'm in the event that's going on, and the thing about 2 or 3 witnesses seeing something going on. But I don't know, this really made me think about that. And something else in the same vein. I was looking at the word Cohen. What most of us translate the word Cohen to mean is a priest. Hirsch's commentary has a very, very good definition that goes right along with everything you're saying, Terry, about learning from the Torah and the Torah teachers and the Masorah. Yeah, he says Cohen served as a leader, influencing people to satisfy God's will. That's wonderful. That's not a priest. That's much more than a guy just stands up there slaughtering animals. But his real purpose I read this I heard for this past week, the priest, they might really serve in the temple only 2 days out of the year, maybe 3 days, or maybe a week out of the year. What were they doing the rest of the time? They were back home teaching the people, influencing them how to keep the mitzvot. So that's why we need them so much, or even for us as Noahides, because we have to be taught by somebody who knows. And they're so much more than just a guy in a temple slaughtering an animal.
Right. Yeah, when we get into we're working our way into studying the prohibition of theft, and I'll be going through the introduction of the prohibition of theft in the Divine Code, written by Rabbi Weiner, as part of our learning on that. Actually, when we go through any of them, I'll be going through the introductions and setting up and showing some important information for that particular mitzvah that's ours to study, to learn, and to do. And when we do these, we correct the world, we correct ourselves, we correct the world, and it becomes the utopia that the Creator desires. It's His will. Understand, every one of these is the mitzvah is the will of the expression of the will of God. That's what we have. We don't need to look at it as just a blanket commandment. It's the expression of the will of God, just like what I was saying. If you could picture any of the mitzvot that we're going to be going through, the 7 categorical mitzvot, in the realm of a father saying, look both ways before you make a step in the street. Why? Because there may be danger. You may step into a moving car and get hurt. That's what these mitzvahs are about. We are to look both ways before we make a step. Why? Because our Father doesn't want us to get hurt. And then we need to understand that when we go through every one of these, that mentality of not from a drill sergeant. He is the king. It's the laws of the kingdom. I'm not belittling that. But to make it personal, to bring it home personal, is that this is something that my Creator doesn't want me to do, or He does want me to do, so that I do not get hurt. It's for our best benefit. It's not to be an ogre, a mean creator. It's I tell you what, there's a very, very popular saying among a lot of people, especially here in the South. I hear it all the time on the radio, and it's called love language. Scotty, you probably know what I'm talking about. The love languages. I hear it all the time. This is my love language. Well, these mitzvot are the love language of the Creator. It's His love language toward us. I'm going to just wrap this up with this statement. The Creator formed man from the dust of the earth. He breathed into the nostrils of man and became a living soul. Every human being contains the very spark of the Creator that was breathed into Adam. He loved you so much that He gave you a love language so that you wouldn't get hurt. Why would He put a part of Him in you to rule you like a slave, to dog you and to make you beaten down and you're worthy? No, it's Hashem breathed into Adam and he became a living soul. He did not have to do that. So why would He turn around and beat you up with a set of rules? That God so loved you that He gave you boundaries to protect you. And that's what the 7 Noahide Laws are. There are boundaries so that we can walk in the full expressed will of the Creator and be everything He wants us to be and more. The Sheva Mitzvot B'nai Noach is the love language to mankind. It's our protection. It's our boundaries. I'm looking forward to us getting into them. Go ahead, Scotty.
Well, great class, Terry. I had to step out just for a few minutes. Had to take care of something over in the YouTube and the Facebook, but took care of that. But great class. Great thumbs up on the radio. Great. Let me just say real quick, Gail is over on the YouTube channel and along with 3 others and are listening. And also Sally, of course, you listening, and Wendy kind of got him late, but we're going to give her a message next week to remind her when we are starting. But great class. So you want me to bring it to a close?
We can bring it to a close until next week. Veronica. Would you like me to say anything about what you messaged me last night in case someone's interested?
Yeah, if you can hear me, that would be great.
Okay. Hashem willing, here in about a month or the first of this next month, we're going to give it a couple weeks here. I've been asked, right now, my schedule allows for me to do this on Thursday nights at 8:00, New York time, Eastern time. We're going to start a class. We're going to go through this book for those that are interested. It gives you time if you want to purchase the book. It's a whole lot there. So it's something we're not going to cover next week. We're just going to take it slow and everything. Anybody that's interested and wants to go through that book with us, kind of be like a little book club kind of thing. And is that kind of what we're going to do, Veronica?
That is exactly what we're going to do. But I thought that it was on Tuesdays.
No, Thursdays.
It's on Thursdays. Okay, my bad.
Thursdays, yeah, because that's the night that I'm most likely able to make sure I'm home in time.
Okay. Okay, yeah, Thursdays is fine.
Yeah. Tuesdays would be really hard for me, just because for some reason it's one of our busy days.
Well, I didn't want to wear you out or anything.
Oh, you're not wearing me out. But I'm actually looking forward to it because some of the stuff I covered tonight was in that book. So y'all got a pre-taste of some of it.
Cool.
So anyone interested, if you want to purchase that book, we'll give you more details later. I think Veronica is going to use her Zoom room, and she'll probably want some, like a sign-up thing, people to contact her, and we're going to start that study and just slowly go through it, and I think it'll be really good. Anything else, Scotty? Any questions from the other avenues?
No, not at this time. But after the meeting's closed, when everybody leaves, I'd like to see you just for a minute, Terry.
Gotcha.
So, well, thank you everybody for coming. Do you want to close this out, Terry?
No, go ahead. You're the engineer. I'm
down in the engine room pulling back the engines. Thank you everybody for coming. Thank you, Larry, for coming, and Anuela and Thomas and Veronica Port. We always love to see you around. And my wife, I love it when she comes and sets in. So she's with a beautiful, handsome man right there. I'm not sure who that is, but you see, this man's got a beard and that one did not. So anyway,
he's trying to hide under a hat too.
I reckon so. Yeah. So we thank everybody for coming. Please come back next week. And now I just want to say that Rabbi Pesach for the next 3 weeks, if I've got this correct, will not be having Sunday night meetings. He usually does that around 10 o'clock. but he is not going to be having any Sunday night meetings for the next 3 Sunday nights, the 3 weeks. But we will be back here next Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's New York time. I know we're living right now where people's changing the hour backward, forward, all kind of things. I think it's forward, isn't it? Did we just change forward? And other people are going to change forward next week. And it just, so look at whatever time it is in New York, 8 p.m. that time, come and be with us. So until next time, we shall see everyone later.